It was a freezing night when former U.S. Marine Ethan Walker sat on the edge of his car seat, his two little children shivering under worn-out blankets in the back. The windows were fogged from their breath, the heater long broken, and the cold creeping in like an uninvited ghost. Once a proud soldier who had served his country with honor, Ethan now found himself bankrupt, jobless, and without a home. The bank had taken his house after his small marine equipment business went under. His wife had left a year ago, unable to handle the weight of their collapsing life. All he had left were his children, 6-year-old Lily, who still believed her daddy could fix anything, and 10-year-old Noah, who tried to stay brave but whose eyes betrayed fear no child should ever know. The sound of rain hitting the car roof felt like the world reminding them they were forgotten. Ethan looked at his kids and whispered to himself, "Just one more night, we'll find something tomorrow." But tomorrow always seemed to drift further away. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and helping those who've lost everything, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support spreads stories that restore faith in humanity. That night, as the storm grew violent, Ethan drove aimlessly through the city streets, desperate for a safe place to park and sleep. His gas light blinked red. The last few dollars in his wallet were gone, spent on bread and milk. When the car finally sputtered to a stop near an old warehouse, he slumped against the steering wheel, tears slipping down his cheeks. He had faced gunfire, seen brothers fall in battle, but nothing compared to the pain of not being able to protect his children from the cold. Lily whimpered softly, asking if they'd get a warm bed soon, and Ethan forced a smile, hiding his breaking heart. As they drifted into uneasy sleep, a sudden knock on the window startled him. Standing outside in the rain was a woman holding an umbrella, Isabella Hartman, a CEO of a rapidly growing logistics company, dressed in a raincoat but with eyes filled with warmth. Behind her, two young girls peeked curiously, her daughters, Emily and Sophie. Isabella had been driving home when she noticed the parked car with two small faces pressed against the glass. Something in her heart told her she couldn't just drive away. When Ethan stepped out to explain, drenched and embarrassed, he expected judgment, but Isabella only said softly, "You and your kids shouldn't be out here. Come with me." Ethan hesitated, his pride screaming no, but his children's shivering bodies said otherwise. Within an hour, they were sitting in a warm kitchen, steam rising from bowls of soup, the scent of fresh bread filling the air. Isabella's daughters, curious and kind, shared their toys with Lily and Noah, and laughter slowly replaced the silence. Ethan sat quietly, eyes lowered, murmuring thanks that felt too small for what he'd been given. Over the next few days, Isabella learned his story, how he had invested his military pension into a small marine parts business, only for it to collapse when a major client defaulted on payment. She saw not a failure, but a man who had risked everything for his family and refused to give up. Her heart ached knowing how often people like him slipped through the cracks, invisible to a world too busy to care. In the weeks that followed, Ethan worked odd jobs around Isabella's estate, fixing the gate, repairing the old boat dock, tending the garden. Her daughters adored him, calling him Mr. Marine, and Lily and Noah began to smile again. One evening, as Isabella watched them playing in the yard, she realized how different her house felt, alive, filled with laughter that had been missing since her husband's passing years ago. The connection between them grew quietly, born not of romance but of shared humanity. She saw in Ethan the same resilience she'd once needed to build her empire from nothing, and he saw in her the compassion that the world had denied him. When she discovered his technical background and business knowledge, she invited him to consult for her company's shipping department. What started as a temporary role quickly turned into something more. Ethan streamlined operations, saved costs, and introduced new strategies learned from his marine experience. Within months, profits soared, and Isabella promoted him to director of operations, giving him the dignity and stability he thought he'd lost forever. But even as his life began to stabilize, Ethan couldn't forget that night in the car, the fear in his children's eyes, the helplessness in his heart. He started volunteering at shelters, using his paycheck to help other homeless veterans find housing and work. Isabella supported him, even funding a small foundation he started, Second Horizon, dedicated to rebuilding the lives of struggling single parents. Together, they began to change lives one family at a time. The local news picked up their story, and people across the city were moved to tears, not just because a powerful CEO helped a broken father, but because it showed that kindness still existed in a world that often looked away. As time passed, Ethan's children flourished. Noah joined the school's robotics club, dreaming of becoming an engineer, while little Lily began painting pictures of a house full of love. Isabella's daughters considered Ethan's family their own, and their home became a symbol of hope, where two families became one not by blood, but by compassion. 1 year later, on Christmas Eve, Ethan stood outside the same warehouse where his nightmare began, now transformed into a shelter funded by Second Horizon. Snow fell gently as he looked up at the glowing sign and whispered, "We found our shelter." Behind him, Isabella and the kids arrived, their laughter echoing in the winter air. He knew then that second chances weren't given, they were shared, built from the courage to care. If this story touched your heart, please don't just scroll, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps us bring more true-to-life stories of hope, redemption, and kindness to the world. Before you go, comment below, what would you have done if you were in Isabella's place that night? Your words might just inspire someone else to open their heart.